Welcome to Worst Take. I'm alongside Jack Ziskin and Cedric Joretro, and I'm Kyle Terrain, the host of the show. We're going to start this week's episode off with y'all's game of the week. Cedric, what's your game of the week?
Oh, there's no doubt it's the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. What an ending to that game. I had the Cowboys winning that game by 30 plus. It obviously didn't happen that way. The Cowboys are very, very lucky to have Brandon Aubrey. How about nailing a 64-yard field goal to send the game to overtime in the final seconds? And that's not even counting all the craziness that happened literally in the 52 seconds before. 52 seconds left. Cowboys take the lead. And then what does Russ do? Hit Malik Neighbors on a deep bomb with 25 seconds left. You think the Giants are on their way to a miracle win, but oh no, you forget Brandon Aubrey has unlimited range, 64-yarder. Giants had their opportunities in overtime. I thought the Giants ultimately should have won that game. Both teams were kind of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory throughout the end over there. So yeah, it's another crushing loss for the Giants, but I was very, very impressed with the way Russell Wilson performed until that very last interception. What, 454 passing yards? Ridiculous.
Can I just
He didn't
add
look
before
right.
we,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, Cedric, but can I just add before we move on that, really big shout out to Jerry Jones for getting rid of Parsons, because if they had him, they're probably 2-0 right now. No offense to your Eagles, but that was a close game without him, especially after the Jalen Carter spitting incident. Now, I'm not saying the Cowboys would be Super Bowl contenders, but that offense looks pretty good, now that they've added George Pickens. The run game is better. So like it's really got a sting for Cowboys fans that they traded Micah Parsons for Kenny Clark and a couple of lottery tickets. But yeah, my game of the week actually wasn't pro. I wasn't super impressed with what any NFL team showed me this week. My game of the week was Georgia and Tennessee. You got two quarterbacks, really stepping into the limelight. You got Gunnar Stockton, you got Joey Aguilar, and I thought that Aguilar really acquitted himself well. I think he silenced any doubts about his abilities. I don't think that Tennessee fans will be missing Nico Iamaleava anytime soon. And I think that Gunnar Stockton, bottom line, Carson Beck was balling out in Miami, still is. Georgia fans don't feel bad, though. They snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. Really strong offensive game. The defense got better as it went along. And, I think we're going to see these two teams again in the playoffs and probably the SEC championship game.
I actually
Matt
like that
Gilbert.
take.
Remember the name, fellas.
Name. What?
Matt
What name?
Gilbert. Matt Gilbert, Tennessee kicker.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
I don't.
That's not okay.
Kickers are people too, Cedric. Come on.
Also, that kid was young. They had the awful penalty on that too, where they lost
Yeah.
5 yards. There was so much that went into that. I don't think that's a fair take, but let me actually just double check my SEC divisions here. As the resident Florida Gators guy, they used to have divisions. I wanted to make sure they could play each other in the playoffs, but ever since Texas and Oklahoma entered, they kind of got rid of that, thankfully. So we could see it.
Yeah. So I'm actually I'm gonna go circle back to Cedric's take because y'all both kind of hit on the Cowboys having a run game, and your resident, UNC fan here just want to point out that that's Javonte Williams. So most UNC fans know Javonte Williams. He's number like 6 all time on UNC's rush list. He's one of the top backs they've ever had. I'm just gonna put it out there. Once he got there, their run game is looking, pretty good since Tony Pollard left. But I'm with you. My game of the week would also be that Giants and Cowboys game. Like you said, Cedric, 350 yards right after the week one performance by Russell Wilson, where he kind of stuck up the plays. We were calling for Jackson Dart to kind of come in and play that game. I really think that is the big game of the week. The Giants were doing everything possible to lose that game, and they almost still won it. So to me right now, I think that's like a signal game for that division. Especially when I'm looking at the Cowboys and I'm like, their offense looks great. The run game is look like it's back. I'm gonna go with that one. It's just good to see also that the Giants next week have the Chiefs. So if this is gonna continue, that also might be another game I'm looking forward to. We're gonna move forward. We're here with have the Chiefs had their Super Bowl hangover. Cedric, what do you think about the Chiefs?
You know what? I think that they're ringing the alarm bells in Kansas City. I predicted them to start 0-2, and lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. I think that this is when all the pundits and all the analysts are going to say, is this the end of the dynasty? Well, we'll take you back a couple years when Max Kellerman infamously said on First Take that Tom Brady is falling off a cliff. And ironically, it was against these same Kansas City Chiefs where the Patriots got blown out. Patriots were 1-2. And what do? They go ahead and win like 11 of the next 12 games. So the alarm bells are going off, but expect the Chiefs to respond. I think this is a really, really interesting matchup between the Giants and the Chiefs coming up, between two teams that absolutely need a win. And I think that a lot of people are looking at this game as a much closer matchup now, considering that the Giants are at home and the way they performed against Dallas. So I think that this is just a huge matchup for both teams. I'm excited to see it, but I expect the Chiefs to respond, and I still expect the Chiefs to be very competitive in their division. Might come down to Week 18.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that, and we're gonna get to this later in the episode. Our top five games to watch for next week. I had Giants and Chiefs as my honorable mention, and I think the reality comes down to this: that Giants pass rush is deadly. The Chiefs are better at offensive tackle with Josh Simmons, but Jawan Taylor still Jawan Taylor. They miss Joe Thuney. Their receiving core is a disaster, and it's very clear that the Travis Kelce era is over. It's over. I love the Kelsey brothers. I mean, I think we all loved watching Travis during his prime. We just haven't seen enough from him. Uh, you know,
Yeah, he sure wishes he was feeling 22 right now.
as much as I love your service there, you cut out there for me. I mean,
Say it
bottom
again.
bottom line, you got to say that again.
I've said Travis Kelsey sure wishes he was feeling 22 right now.
Oh my God, that's terrible. Look, I mean, this is what
God.
it comes down to, though. That's hilarious. But like, look, the Chiefs' defense does not look as good as it was. I don't know how they kept that game within 3 points. I think that's the equivalent of a division
No,
game.
the defense looked pretty good to me. They held the
I
Eagles to
think
20.
I
Saquon
don't
Barkley
think that
really had
should
to
have
work for
happened
those
though.
yards. I thought,
It happened. I don't I think that was Super Bowl game for the Chiefs, and I don't think it was for the Eagles. I think the Eagles are like, we've beaten them. We can beat them. They're no longer scared of them. And I think this rivalry is quickly moving towards being a little bit more one-sided because I don't see the Chiefs, being able to recover along the offensive line quickly enough to fix their issues. The secondary still isn't fantastic. They missed Nick Bolton at linebacker, I believe. And I I'm not feeling the Chiefs. I think that their era is over. And I think they're going to be, really retooling in the next couple of years with Andy Reid's age. We're going to really see what Patrick Mahomes looks like in these next couple of years because this is the type of, just father time derailing this dynasty halfway through, but you might not have your head coach on the other side.
So I'd like y'all both split here. I'm not as I'm not as like believing that this is over for them. I'm more a part of the look, Patrick Mahomes' first 0-2 start. That is important to understand. But it's is his first 0-2 start. Those quarterbacks that haven't started positive in the first two games since they started. Daniel Jones himself is first time in 2-0 since what they made the playoffs with the Giants. I can't remember the last time they were specifically that high. So I'm not super out on Mahomes. I will say though, it is alarming. He's in an air raid offense. In 2 weeks, he's number 13 in passing yards, noticeably behind Drake May, right? Aaron Rodgers, who is Father Time. He is Mr. Father Time at this point, right? Daniel Jones, it has more passing yards than him.
The new
Bryce
Sam
Young
Darnold.
has more passing yards than him, and Sam Darnold.
He's the new
Like,
Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones.
well,
this,
keep in mind though, the Chiefs are still without Worthy and Rice, and they might get Worthy back next week. So
I
Yeah,
I agree that Rice would be a great addition. I'm not against Worthy. I think Rice for the role, having both of them together would be a nice 1-2. But it's always
well, two
been,
of the fastest guys in the league. Did you see the 40s they ran?
we're
but
talking
40s
about,
don't always translate.
Yeah, that's true.
but they did
So,
translate
say-
when they're healthy. But are they going to be healthy?
yeah, I agree with that. I think Rice will be healthy. I think Worthy, I don't know if he's gonna make it through the whole season at his size. Um, so that's kind of where I'm standing with that. And I also think you do need Travis Kelce in this office to play better. And at his age and at this point, he needs to like swiftly figure it out because if he doesn't, I cannot like. I cannot pick the Chiefs to go back to a Super Bowl. I don't think they're going to be better than my MVP pick. That's Justin Herbert. I don't think he's going to be better than my second MVP pick. That's Jalen Hurts. That's two JHs, one and two for me. They're not better than either of those two. So I just don't believe that the Chiefs are done. But also, at the same time, I don't believe they're getting all the way back. With that being said, though,
Hate to say it before we move on. I know you're about to. They
We
might be
saw
the
that
third
pun in there,
best team in
Kyle.
that.
Good job.
They might be the third best team in that division. That's all I want to say. I don't want anybody to rebuke that. Rebuke, excuse me. But I think that the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers are better than the Kansas City Chiefs.
okay,
I,
I'll let you have that take. I'm not mad at that take. But we go from one AFC team that was a super power team to another team that at least had a superpower offense. Is the Bengals season over? Jack, what do you believe about the Bengals season being over?
Let's start with Jake Browning, right? He comes in, wins the game. Guess what? He threw two touchdowns and three picks. That's not the you can't do that every week. I think this is a very quarterback friendly offense, so long as the offensive line plays well and the run game is decent, are things I think they can do. But I think just based on the division they play in, this made Rodgers' path to the playoffs a heck of a lot easier. I think it's very likely they're going to have to trade for a quarterback. I know Twitter was going crazy at the possibility of Jameis in Cincinnati. Uh, Bottom line for me is this, though. I think there's a real chance now that Trey Hendrickson does get traded. I don't know what he fetches you because you cannot franchise tag him because of how they renegotiated his contract. But what I would say is that, for the Bengals, you can probably get a second round pick for Trey Hendrickson. So if you're not going to extend him, and to be clear, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I probably would trade for Jameis as quarterback insurance and invest in Hendrickson because there are just some pass rushers that are worth the money. But I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to trade Hendrickson. I think they're going to end up revamping that offensive line in the offseason and making some changes on defense. I think Joe Burrow's injury is a sign that this team needs to make structural changes around their three-star players. I think the turnaround could be quick, but I think I think the turnaround is coming after his injury.
Cedric, how you feeling about the Bengals?
yeah, it doesn't look good, right? I mean, we saw this a couple years ago when Jake Browning came in and started a bunch of games for the Bengals. I think that it depends how soon Joe Burrow can come back. They're saying 3 months. That would give him right around week 15, probably
Around
best
playoff times.
possible,
That's
best 15, 16. That's best possible scenario. Maybe you get him back for the last two, three regular season games. If he does come back around that point, it's a matter of whether Jake Browning can keep that team in the hunt, which you figure you got to go at least around 500. If you could be around 500, 7-7, Joe Burrow comes back and can win you your last three games. Even then, 10-7, I don't think is a guarantee to make the playoffs in this version of the AFC right now. But it gives you a fighting chance. So I do think that I wouldn't rule them completely out just yet. I do think Browning is capable of potentially keeping this roster right around the 500 mark until Joe comes back in December. It's just a matter of whether 9-10 wins would be enough for this team to sneak in.
Yeah, and you know what? The good news is they're playing Minnesota this week, so there's a chance for them to get to 3-0, give themselves a little bit more cushion to figure this out. But I think there's going to have to be some acquisitions made for them to compete. I think you and me are pretty much on the same page with this one.
yeah, yeah. I'm kind of with y'all too. Unless they do some changing, that the Bengals season is over. But to be real, they're 6-8 without Burrow, so it's not as if they can't win. It's more likely that they're going to struggle heavily and be extremely demoralized at this point in the season, regardless who's going to play that quarterback, regardless who they trade for. So at this point, I think they should retool and look at the O line and figure out if you're going to throw the ball as much as you are, if you're going to be that heavy of an offense, then you got to get a better O line. So I don't see Trey Hendrickson coming back uh, after this season. I know they paid him and didn't extend his contract just so he could play this year. At this point, you need to trade him. He'll probably be the first person they'll talk about, and I don't believe they'll also be trading Joe Burrow. I think that's a crazy thing for any team to do. Um, but I do believe their season is over. But with one dynasty reeling, we have another one on the rise. Is this the Eagles era, Cedric?
I'll tell you what, I haven't been all that impressed with the team through the first 2 weeks of the year. Two gritty victories, but they're doing what they have to do to win games, and they beat two, I think, pretty good teams back to back. And then that was for me, that was a bit of a statement win going into Arrowhead and beating the Chiefs because that's not an easy thing to do over the last decade and plus, So I think that the Eagles are just fine. They're 2-0, and I still think that they could even play so much better, and I think they will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I think the Eagles right now, nobody in the NFC has really looked like they're going to be able to challenge them. I'd
Well,
say
the
Tampa,
Packers, though, we'll talk about that in a little bit. The Packers
well,
look really good through the first 2 weeks of the year.
Packers, yes. I would if Tristan Wirfs was healthy, I think Tampa Bay would be a sleeper for me, but right now I can't say that. For me, bottom line is this. I saw Josh Allen play on Sunday. I don't take into account anything you do against the Jets as a sign that you're going to be a contender. But I look at this AFC East, right? Or I look at the AFC East. I look at the rest of the AFC as a whole. It's wide open. Joe Burrow is down. They've beaten Baltimore, which, they haven't consistently been able to do. The way they're going to be able to rack up wins in their division, they can likely clinch that first seed and have home field advantage if they end up having to play Baltimore again. Bottom line, I think their path to a championship is the easiest in the AFC. I think the offense looks good. Keon Coleman looks good. James Cook is doing James Cook things. They have a deep wide receiver room, underrated. Right now, the Bills would be my pick to come out of the AFC, and I think they can do it without getting too banged up. And I think that's really what it is for me, because when you look at the NFC, the Eagles are good. I haven't loved what I see from the Rams, but I'm not counting Jared Verse and Matthew Stafford out. I haven't loved what I've seen from anybody in that division, but the 49ers have the ability to be contenders, and we can say the same for just looking at the NFC East. You can't rule out the Commanders. Detroit's still a threat. It's just a much harder conference to get through, and I think that could work against the Eagles.
Yeah. Um, I'm in the camp of the NFC outside of the Packers being a little easy for the Eagles, right? I just don't see the Packers is one team, and if the Vikings still had Sam Darnold, I would. And it's crazy to say that, right? That's a crazy sentence to say. But I'm
Darnold
more confident that Sam Darnold would give the Eagles a run for their money than what JJ McCarthy has done so far. So
not gonna be doing anything for a while.
say it again.
He's not gonna be doing anything for a while anyway. They gotta, oof.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what I'm saying here. Like, I just don't believe there's anything against the Eagles. So I do believe they're in their era at the current moment, even though, like Cedric said, right, the first two games, nothing impressive. But the Eagles are a gritty win team. They've been that way last year. They're a type of team that finds the way to win. And if they continue to win, who cares how they won? It's always about the result that they won. They so far have won 7 straight games in a row. You chart that back into the playoffs, into the end of last season.
Well, they've
They've
won 18 out of 19 games. Keep that in mind.
Yeah. And that's all I care about when it comes to being in having a dynasty level organization is, are you winning? Not really how you always win, right? But are you winning, and are you doing it respectively? And they're playing tough competition. They didn't win 18 and 19 playing the Giants every day. So I or the Panthers. So I threw them in there, but I'm with the yes, they are in their era, and I know that another player that I thought was coming into their era just got, taken out. It's unfortunate. Justin Fields was concussed after, in that Bills loss in that fourth quarter. I just want to know, Jack, how you feeling about Justin Fields and your team moving forward now that he's going to be out for at lowest a game, maybe?
Well, look, first off, I was not happy with how he played against the Bills. I thought he did not look great. At the same time, that interior of their offensive line, now that Josh Myers is at center, Joe Tippmann, that is probably a better guard than he is a center. But Josh Myers is such a huge downgrade from Elijah Vera Tucker, and it's hurt them. It really has hurt them. They were supposed to have the best offensive line, arguably, in the league. Really, they really had a chance to be that good, that dominant, with the talent they had and the pedigree they had. But obviously, that's not the case. You saw a lot of signs of struggle against a team that knows them like the back of their hand in the Bills. But this is what I will say. If Tyrod Taylor starts next week, I watched Tampa on Monday night. I love Baker Mayfield. I love how he finished that game. There was a good portion of that game where I thought it should just be suspended because both offensive lines were just destroyed. Both quarterbacks were getting blown up. Baker pulls off some late game magic. Tampa Bay escapes with the win. But bottom line is this, right, guys? This is the Jets. This isn't about I'm not ready to write Fields off or, hail him as the savior because of 2 games. But him getting hurt because of just, poor play calling, just it needs to be cleaner than what it was. He needs to be out of the pocket more. He needs to run more. When he runs more and then he gets back in the pocket, he's more confident. This isn't he can't throw. That's just what he needs mentally, and that's what you're working with him with as a quarterback. He's not a pocket passer. Does that mean he can't be? I mean, look, he's been in the league a decent amount of time, but he's never really had the chance to develop as one. Him getting hurt right now, the biggest impact it has is on his development. But if the Jets are looking for a win, they're on the road against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's offensive line is decimated. If Jermaine Johnson's back, if he's okay, if Michael Carter's okay, and these are all big ifs, if the defense can sort out that issue they're having at the linebacker position, yeah, they can cause some problems for Tampa because that offensive line can't keep Baker Mayfield upright. But if they can't get after the passer, it's not going to matter how bad their offensive line is because their secondary looks bad. So Justin Fields being concussed, I'm more worried about Justin Fields than the Jets. The Jets aren't supposed to be good this year, whether or not he's the answer. They're not. And I think that losing him now, being forced to go to Tyrod Taylor, maybe it gives you the shot in the arm you need to win a game. But it's not good for the Jets. It's not good for Justin Fields. And right now, the Jets are just looking for a silver lining.
Yeah. Cedric, how you feeling about Justin Fields being concussed?
Well, we go back to the very first episode of the pod. The Jets are gonna jet until they don't jet, and they just continue to jet.
Doing
So
that
it
about an
is what it is.
ridiculous.
It is what it is, man.
I agree it is what it is, but don't.
I projected them to go 5-12, even if they had 10 Pro Bowlers on their roster. That still stands with me. In fact, 5-12 is looking pretty good right now with the way they've started the year.
They lost to Pittsburgh by 2. Calm down. They look better.
No, they look pretty good. I was impressed. But leave it to Boswell, 60-yard field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you did
move
say
on. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I knew you were going to go that way. Go right back to the Jets are going to jet. I will say, Jack, I agree with your take a little bit about Justin Fields. I don't think he's the best in the pocket, especially when he is that lethal with his legs. And he carried the ball 5 times for 49 yards. I'm not saying you need to give him the ball 10 times a game on the ground by the time the fourth quarter comes, but I'm also saying that, you know, I'd rather see him run a little bit more. He was 3 of 11, not a great game in the air. You don't even buy into it. And it wasn't like Allen played that great either, right? It was Cook who ran them to victory, quite literally, and the defense. So I'm with you here with uh your take on Justin Fields, which I know this kind of sucks for you a little bit
Oh yeah.
because we're going right back to you here because DJ Lagway had 5 picks. How we feeling about Florida, especially coming up against going against Miami at home at Miami with DJ Lagway coming off of his career worst game?
Look, this is going to sound crazy. The Florida Gators should be 3-0 right now. And that's not me speaking as a Florida Gators fan. As a Florida Gators fan, I'm probably one of the worst people on the planet to watch my, college team play with. I am just not happy. Even if they win, I'm not happy with Florida. It gets a little dark sometimes, a little scary. But, bottom line is this. DJ Lagway had the worst game of his career, and that needs to be humbling for him because the way he played was unacceptable. And that was a game they should have won, and I'll tell you why. First drive of the game for LSU, 3 and out. Second, 3 and out. Third, 3 and out. But you only come away with 3 points. That's how you lose a football game. They lost 20-10. 7 of those LSU points came on a pick six. Another 3 came because of a very, very poorly thrown ball that ended in an interception that led to a field goal. 10 of those points are on Lagway. The offense, though, that Billy Napier ran last week has convinced me, not that I wasn't already convinced of this, he needs to stop calling plays. That was atrocious. If you watched that Florida offense last week, you would think that DJ Lagway couldn't throw the ball more than 10 yards. And I hate to say this, but DJ Lagway isn't Emory Jones. This was a bad, bad game plan. They didn't throw the ball down the field. They didn't get him out of the pocket. And because of that, their offensive line collapsed. They caved. The run game couldn't be established. They did every possible thing wrong against LSU in a hostile environment, but they did everything wrong. And I think this is just the sign that, Billy Napier's recruited a good team. The defense is talented. Let your coordinators be your coordinators. Trust your offensive coordinator as much as you trust your defensive coordinator, and you can still turn this around. Miami ain't all that. USF, I can accept that. I could have accepted that being a close win because they didn't have a warm-up. They played LIU, and that's on Strickland and their athletic department. This is a structural problem in Florida, and it's not going to get better until they fix the culture. But the culture has to start being fixed by the guy they hired to replace Dan Mullen. I still think Billy Napier knows what he's doing. I still think he can be a good head coach, but he's got to give me results. That's all it comes down to. He's got to show what he did with the Raging Cajuns. He's got to be a head coach, and if he's just a head coach, I think he turns this around. But I don't think he will. I don't think he will give up the reins.
Cedric, you have a take on DJ Latway's ridiculous 5-pick game?
Jack's always going to hold out hope being a Florida guy, but I think the writing is on the wall. I feel bad for Jack because the Gators were the only semblance of hope he had left, and being a sports fan of all the teams he's a fan of, and so I really pity being Jack Ziskin as a sports fan. It must be tough having to analyze your teams just week after week, loss after loss, season after season. At least the Gators won the NCAA title last year, March Madness. So you have that. What would you say? It was the first championship you've seen in your life. So at least you've seen one.
Look, I mean, bottom line is this: I don't think this was a bad game for Lagway. I don't believe that he came in fully prepared, in part because he missed so much at camp. I still believe in the player. I still believe in the talent. And ultimately, because of that, I can tell you right now, no matter how this season goes, unless they go 4-8, which I think Napier won't, I think after going 1-3 to start, it's more likely they go 6-6 again. But as long as they have Lagway and he finishes strong, I hate to say it, they're not getting rid of him. The University of Florida has cycled through head coach after head coach after head coach. And no matter how much people want Napier gone, I don't think Strickland will listen anymore. And I think he's just going to keep him, keep investing money in NIL, and hope that NIL money turns it around. And I think that if you're a Florida Gators fan, we've cycled through coaches every 5 years. He's had the worst record of any of them, but we've cycled through coaches every 5 years. Clearly, this is a cultural problem of not having a head coach for more than 5 years. Dan Mullen wasn't the answer. He couldn't recruit. Jim McElwain, well, we all know why he had to be fired. And the less said about Will Muschamps, the better. This is where we are now. You don't get to just say you're the University of Florida, and just like that, Nick Saban's going to come calling, I want to come back to coaching college football. That's not how it works. This team can be turned around. You see the talent on defense. Caleb Banks, Tyreek Sapp, no relation to Warren. There's talent here. They gave Garrett Nussmeier fits, which is why it should piss Gators fans off that they couldn't get DJ Lagway into play action, run him out of the pocket, get the ground game going, because they should have pounded LSU on their home turf. It should have been an ugly win, but it should have been one they had, the same as they should have had USF. This isn't me being biased towards Florida. I am their harshest critic. I don't like how they called the plays. I don't like how they do a lot of things. But they have talent. They have a left tackle who will be a top 3-round pick, probably closer to late first, early second. They have a great center. They have talent on the offensive line. The scheme isn't working. He's trying to do too much. And it showed with Lagway. Let him focus on Lagway and the team. Let someone else call the plays. And then he can just be Lagway's personal cheerleader on the side because it looks like he needs that after throwing 5 interceptions. I still believe in the talent. He's an exceptional talent. He's more talented than Richardson was. Now it's time to
And
shoot.
that was your resident Gators fan TED Talk brought to you by Jack Ziskin. Thank you, Jack.
That's not a TED Talk, and I think most TED Talks are and Gators fans would be more negative than I am. I'm being objective here, and I'm looking at the talent they have. You can look up Austin Barber if you want. You can look up Jake Slaughter if you want. You can look up Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp, and you can look at all the talent they have that's going to go in the top 100 this year. But at the end
I
of the
am.
day, their routes and the routes their receivers ran with all that intermediate passing game BS. Eugene Wilson looking like a shell of himself, and a 5'8" true freshman in Brown coming out onto the field and just being absolutely destroyed by those LSU D backs. Those are errors made because you're trying to do too much. Those are unforced errors, Cedric. And I think that, I think you know that. And as entertaining as this is for you, and as much I know we need to move on, I do need to add that.
I agree with you. There were a bunch of unforced errors. Especially you take one pick away, that game is a 14-10 game. That's a different game plan.
Both of them, you take two of them away,
You
it's
take
tied.
Yeah, you exactly. You take some of those picks away, the game's different. It sucks to lose that way, especially because you've lost to every Miami team at this point. Y'all played in the schedule. I mean, every Florida team. If
Yep,
you
one
you
left.
play, and you got
And
one left, and that's Miami. So it's gonna be real interesting this game. I know you're gonna be keyed into that Miami game, especially because I feel like this is a must-win game for y'all. Just so we can. I believe in DJ that way. I believe he's one of the most talented quarterbacks right now playing, but he has not produced at the level. Ty Simpson from Alabama has had a better season than him.
like 47.
So I'm waiting for this game to this Miami game before I make my big take about DJ Latway. I'll hold off. Every quarterback has a bad day. This was his bad day. Let's just not make it a bad month. And so some people might think he's overhyped, but I want to know going into this next segment, who is overhyped or not hyped enough? So Cedric, who is your overhyped or not hyped enough pick?
My not hyped enough pick is the Indianapolis Colts. I thought they looked really good in week one. They got the last second win against the Broncos in week two. Watch out because Danny Dimes is balling. I think that this team has a legitimate shot to win their division. Is it too early to say they're the favorites to win their division? Yes, absolutely. But I do think that they certainly have a shot to do it. I think this looks like a playoff team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean when you're looking at teams that are, not hyped enough, I think there's one pretty clear pick. And it's going to surprise some people, but I think it's Denver even with the loss to Indianapolis. I think Bo Nix has looked pretty good. I think, the sophomore slump isn't there. And I think this is a Sean Payton coach team, and I think with the way the Chargers look right now, they might start 1-2. That's not the end of the world. The Chiefs, in a best case scenario, are starting 1-2, right? I think Denver's a much better constructed team than the Chiefs right now. And I think when you look at everything going on in the AFC West, I said it before, I'll say it again. I think the Chiefs are the third best team in their division this year. I think it's a slap in the face to them and management there that a lot more changes need to be made. And, maybe there were some mistakes made along the way in terms of personnel. Maybe, when you invest so heavily in guys that aren't necessarily most reliable, that's going to come back and bite you. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. But I think they shifted their strategy a little bit in the last draft. And I think that they can get this ship righted pretty quickly. But they gotta start making their moves, not just for this season making a trade to reinforce that offensive line, but they also have to, start looking at that next draft class because they can't afford to miss on any picks.
Hmm. So we have the Chiefs overhyped a little bit, right? Can return, can get back to dominance, and then you have the Colts under or not hyped enough. And I think it was a good pick. The Colts one is a little surprising because I don't think this is the first time Danny Dimes has balled out. It's more of every time he has balled out, right? It's been because he's had like a top 10 running back. And
Wait. That's your Danny Dimes take?
that Jonathan Taylor's a top 10 guy or
Daniel Jones has never had more than two weapons at once until he got to Indianapolis. He's never
And one
had
of the
an
and
offense.
one of those weapons were Saquon Barkley. That's two guys by himself of
I don't
talent.
know. That's not how it works.
You
That's not.
talking about you can't cut out the run game
No, no, no. I'm saying that's all he had.
since just Saquon Barkley?
Who was his number one receiver that year? Darius Slayton. They made the playoff.
Yes. And they brought
They no,
Jalen
no, no.
Hyatt in, but I'm not saying that he was that great. I'm saying he's
That's
had always a top running back when they play good.
and,
That's not a bad take.
no, no. I
He,
agree with you, but what I'm saying is he's never had as much as he has with the Colts right now.
oh yes, I agree, but
That's
that's
all.
not what I'm saying.
That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
we're not disagreeing on that. I'm
Okay.
just saying Jonathan Taylor is a top 10 guy, and so was Saquon Barkley. And so there's some consistency there, right?
Okay.
So I'm fine with that take. I think as long as Jonathan Taylor's still there and they still have that threat, because he ran a 70-yarder last game. As long as they have that threat of a running back, just like they had with Saquon, you can't just cover two or play shell defense the whole time against Danny Dimes. He will find the open guy. So I think he's a good enough quarterback. Well, I like that take. They're not hyped enough, and I do believe they have a real good shot at making the playoffs if they stay healthy. And that's always the hardest thing about the NFL. Which leads me to y'all's top five matchups. Jack, what is your top five matchups and predictions for next week?
All right, just taking a quick look at the NFL. I have the Cardinals moving to 3-0 over the 49ers. I think this is their moment to really seize the division, but don't sleep on Seattle because I don't think there's any team in that division, the NFC West, that can not only win the division but finish last in that division. It's a very competitive division. A lot of 9 and 8 teams going to be in that one. But whoever makes the playoffs, watch out. Then we're moving on to LA Chargers versus Denver. Give me the Chargers in this one, but it's going to be narrow and Justin Herbert's MVP, campaign really kicks off. And then we go to Indianapolis and Jacksonville. This is when we're going to figure out if Trevor Lawrence is for real this season. Personally, give me Indianapolis, Danny Dimes to 3-0, and two more to go. Philadelphia over the Rams. I don't like the way the Rams have won, and this is going to be the game that shows that they aren't for real. And then Detroit and Baltimore. One of these two teams has to start out 1-2. Both of them will make the playoffs, and both of them will win a playoff game. I can't tell you for certain who's going to win this one, but give me Baltimore.
Yeah. Cedric.
Wow. Yeah, I think that Detroit Baltimore game is going to be a great, great game. Shout out to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they didn't look that great defensively, but they did hold Derrick Henry to 23 yards when they did say that he was easy to tackle. I think that Henry wanted to show some people, prove some people. I mean, he doesn't really need to prove anybody wrong. If anything, the Browns proved that they were right. So shout out to that. I do think that Detroit actually finds a way to win this game. I think Baltimore is the better team on paper, but I think that Detroit offense is just explosive. I didn't like the way the Ravens defense played week one against the Bills, particularly down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Give me another heartbreaking type of fashion where the Ravens just find a way to lose at the end of the game. The Eagles and the Rams, I think that'll be a great game. You know, 2-0 teams in Philly. I will be in attendance at that game working stats for the Eagles. I'm excited for it. I think that the Eagles just keep on rolling here. I think that they actually finally get a win that's semi-comfortable. Take back to the NFC divisional round in the playoffs last year. A lot of Eagles fans had a heart attack at the end of that game in the snow, and the Rams gave them the best challenge out of any team on their playoff run last year. I don't quite see the game being that close this year. I do think the Rams are a good team. I just think the Eagles are on another tier. Give me the Eagles by about 10 points in that matchup. Uh, you know what? The Jaguars and the Colts, right? Is that the matchup? Or is
These are the matchups I picked. You can pick whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
I
got three
personally, I
college games
personally
on
am
here
not.
too.
Kyle, read off the schedule for me, real quick, because I don't have the schedule in front of me.
For who? Which,
Why
let's
don't
get
you read the schedule and I'll go back to college takes. We'll let you catch up. All right, sweetie. Anywho, going back to college takes while Cedric brushes up a little bit. We got Oklahoma and Auburn this weekend, and Jackson Arnold versus his former team. I think Oklahoma wins, but Auburn keeps it competitive. Up there goes Cedric. And then we also got Utah and Texas Tech. We got A Utah team that has some great offensive tackles, and who doesn't love just two really big offensive tackles come draft day? But right now, we don't care about that. Give me Texas Tech over Utah. The Utes ain't all that. And finally, Illinois versus Indiana. Hell has frozen over if that is a really good game for us, in college football in the Big Ten. And the Illini and the Hoosiers being really good is really bad for the Trojans and the Bruins' long-term future before they go running back to the Pac-12 with their tail between their legs, like we all know Lincoln Riley is prone to do. Just ask him to join the SEC. You'll see what happens. Anywho, give me Fernando Mendoza in that one over Luke Altmaier. And those are going to be the three games to watch this weekend. Notice I don't have Florida and Miami on there for a reason. I don't. Cedric?
I would.
I don't because they haven't shown anything about it. That's the bottom line. But I think Cedric is ready to go with the rest of his schedule.
Yeah.
I'm gonna edit that out.
Okay, so I
Nah, what you mean?
actually I actually think that the Giants and Chiefs game will be really, really intriguing. I said earlier it's two 0-2 teams. Both teams are desperate for a win. New York's at home. I'm gonna pick Kansas City to win this game in a very, very close game, something like a maybe 21-17 type of matchup. I expect the Giants to actually play well in this game, and then to be quite honest with you, it would not be the most surprising thing in the world if the New York Giants found a way to win this game. I really don't. I mean,
I agree.
Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the best track record at MetLife Stadium. Whenever he's gone there, he's played pretty poorly, actually, as a matter of fact. I actually see that trend continuing. No analysis purpose there. I can see it happening. That's my vision for that game. So it's actually the Texans and the Jaguars. I don't like the way the Texans have looked the first 2 weeks of the season. I have the Jaguars winning that game. I do think that Trevor Lawrence finds a way to sneak this Jacksonville team back into the playoffs this year. Yes, it's too early to say, but I see it trending that way. Yeah, to be honest with you. And then you have the Chargers. Give me the Chargers to win that game. I think that they're honestly going to win the AFC West. I think they're the best team. I think they're better than the Kansas City Chiefs. We saw that week one. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers sweep the Chiefs this year. I think the Chargers are looking at 12, 13 wins this year. I think that Harbaugh, Keenan Allen has looked vintage in the first 2 weeks of the year. Suddenly he leaves Chicago and he's not washed anymore. So Justin Herbert has some weapons around him finally, and then I think that Harbaugh is willing to spread that ball around in addition to the run game. So I think the Chargers are looking really good.
You're gonna credit Keenan Allen. Look, I'll take the L for messing up who Jackson
Listen, they're
playing.
receiving touchdown in each of weeks 1 and 2. What are you going to complain about? The man
Quentin
is home.
Johnston.
Him
You're
too.
talking about Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen. I'm talking about Quentin Johnston, the real wide
Both of them.
receiver one.
The argument here is that Justin
Keenan
Herbert
Allen is
has
wide
weapons
receiver
around him
3.
this year.
That's why he looks good. I don't disagree. We both think they're going to win. I love Justin Herbert. I think the easy solution, if you're looking for a franchise quarterback, is to find a 6'4", 6'5" guy, someone who looks like they played at a Big Ten or Pac-12 school, even if they didn't, and that checks out for both Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. But you think they'd play in the Big Ten, right? Find a somewhat successful pop star to pair them with. That is the winning formula. And since I got Jacksonville wrong and you didn't call me out on that, which I will, that was terrible. I want to apologize to you for being snarky, and I also want to say that I think that the Nico Ryans era is going to end this week when Jacksonville and Liam.
And throwback to last week, fellas, the Madison Beer era is starting in Los Angeles.
The Madison Beer era is in full swing. The Chargers and the Bills will play in the AFC East champion or the AFC Championship game, excuse me. And I
We're
think
not sponsored by her, but she does have a new single coming out Friday. Watch out for that.
All right,
folks.
I didn't
The
know
video
that.
is going to be.
I did not know we were plugging in.
Yeah, I wasn't plugging that. I just think it's funny that there's some parallels between Allen and him, and give me the end of the D'Amico Ryan era, not era, but era in Houston. This is a disaster for them.
Uh,
No offensive line. It's
I agree. I like that one. Because it's really I've been following C.A. Stroud's career for a while, so I really believe that it's kind of unfortunate what's going on with the Texans this year, especially with how his career started. I if I was on air 2 years ago, I think I would have been kicked off. And so gladly I am not. We're recording this. because I would have been the main one saying he would be an MVP by this time of this year. But right now I don't see it happening. I like y'all's takes. I'm a little surprised with the Giants take by Cedric. Not gonna lie about it. Um
Abdul
I
Carter.
think the Chiefs can lose that game. I'm picking the Chiefs to win close, but
it's more
you heard
about
it here
because
first. I
Cedric
would
make
not be
that take.
surprised if they lose the
I
Chiefs
no,
won
I
that.
agree
Okay.
with him. He's on to something here. I don't think he'll be right, but I could see it because Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, or Brian Burns could just knock Mahomes
Oh
out
yeah.
for the season.
I don't know they'll do that, but I think they'll
Oh,
his Sonic rings are gonna be showing because that's just too much pass rush to deal with on a team that's 0-2 and reeling. But
Well,
also,
here's
you
my
know,
take right here. If the Chiefs do win this game, which I think they will not win by any more than 5 points. The margin will be between 1 and 5 points, the margin of victory. They're not going to win by even 6 points or more this game.
okay.
fair.
So if you're a
I'm
spread
not against that.
better, if you're a spread better, bet against the spread because the New York Giants are covering the spread.
By the way, if we're talking about the spread, take the over with Seattle. New Orleans is terrible. I don't think the city of New
What's
Orleans.
the over? I didn't check that.
It says here that it's 7.5. That's
Is
atrocious.
it, is it
Seven
because
and a
they
half
let Mac
for
Jones carve them up in the
For
second half? Is that
Seattle.
why you're saying that?
-7. It says -7.5. I mean, Seattle's got to
huh.
beat them by 3 touchdowns, right? Like Spencer Rattler sucks.
He's not good.
No, he's not.
He's
Give
not.
Tyler Shuck a chance. I know he's older than I am, but geez,
That
that's
might be
what
what
I'm
the
saying.
bettors are planning, that Spencer Rattler doesn't start. I
If he
haven't
doesn't
checked.
start, I'd give them a better chance. But
Put the 25-year-old rookie in, you
yeah,
know?
once after this week, I think Seattle's going to be 2-1, and Atlanta has a chance to be 2-1. But ultimately, I think your Panthers going to win this weekend.
Hey, don't give me false hope.
Hey, they beat
I
Atlanta.
was
They ended Atlanta season last year. They can do it again this year.
it was not ending their season when it's this early. It's
Yeah, no, but it'll matter. It'll matter. Give me,
every week I get false hope, and every week I'm let down,
give
and
me,
and
give
I
me,
continue to get it.
give me Atlanta.
Hey, the Panthers kept it close against the Cardinals. Let's not forget
It
that.
wasn't close until the Cardinals decided to play 20 yards off of every single person who was running a route. Okay. And then we decided, to get hot and have a good game at the very end and recover the only onside kick we've seen recovered in like what, a year and a half, 2 years. When was the last time we've seen an onside kick recovered?
Wait, does that one? And this wasn't on the sheet, and I know we're running out of time, but did we talk about what happened with Seattle and Pittsburgh? Did we
We
talk
did
about Caleb Johnson and the
no, we did not.
kickoff touchdown?
We did not.
That was hilarious. That was an Aaron Rodgers football team if I've ever seen one. My God, I loved watching that. Mason Rudolph seeing time against Seattle. I love that. Sam Darnold
Well,
beating him. I love that.
the kickoffs are more exciting this year with the new rule change, being with the touchback at the 35-yard line. Did you see
But
the back-to-back kickoff return touchdowns in the Patriots Dolphins game? He had
let's
back-to-back kickoff return touchdowns, which we haven't
Yeah.
seen in the NFL in who knows how many years.
yeah,
So, kickoff returns are back, and I'm loving it.
but the Patriots have a new coach, so they're still establishing their systems. And the Miami Dolphins are about to have a new coach, and they need to establish new systems. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, rest in peace to my pick of the Dolphins winning the AFC East, barring a miraculous win in Week 3 against the Bills, which I
You
think
can't take that back.
a lot of people have the Bills winning that game by 20 plus. It's going to take a
I
Dolphins
got by 30.
miraculous victory for my pick to have a shot.
I
So
do think the Dolphins take a quarterback in the first 3 rounds, though.
All three
they
rounds?
have.
In the first, one of the
Yeah,
first.
okay.
In the
Fair.
first 3 rounds, I thought that was clear that they weren't drafting three, but who knows? Maybe
No,
they'll.
I would make a joke. I'm with you with that one because as much as I like Tua, it ain't looking good, and there's I mean when you can't get the ball to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and win a game, I think he had a pretty all right week through
Well,
what
I mean, they
300
should have
yards,
won the game if Achan
but
didn't step out of bounds. He didn't step out of bounds. They win that game. He scored on that play.
Look, I'm gonna love when Tua pulls reverse Chad Pennington and heads to New York in 2 years. His Miami career is closing fast. And by the way, I was being sarcastic. I'm not excited about that. Feel bad for the way his career is gone, but I don't.
Well, knowing the Jets, that's the move they would make.
I agree, 100%.
yeah, Justin Fields has a Pro Bowl season, and the Jets decide we're not paying that, so they go ahead and sign and trade him
Oh,
to
that
the
wouldn't happen.
Dolphins.
That in my scenario, Fields burns out and Tua burns out, and the Jets just trade
Mm.
Fields for they
Oh,
just
so we just yeah.
no, they're both free agents in my hellscape of a scenario.
Oh,
Oh, you
oh,
know
and
it's
y'all
not
just
great to
decide
be
to
a New York
sign
Jets fan if
Tua.
they're clamoring for the days of Mark Sanchez again.
No, they're not.
There's
Oh,
only so many
believe
Miss
me,
Fat Rex
believe
fumbles
Ryan
me.
though.
one franchise can have.
Respectfully, cut that out. But they do miss Rex Ryan the first 2 years. I'm all for feeling comfortable in your own skin, but they kind of went downhill when he got skinny. It's of
Mm.
course a joke, and I hope Kyle cuts that out. But
I'm not editing this one, but
Let it stay, editors. Let it stay.
the
well, I'm gonna get canceled before I get my new job. But all right.
well, it's a nice little take. Hopefully they cut it out for you so you can get the new job first. You see, then we publish it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what.
yeah.
But we got to wrap up here.
But we do have to wrap up. That'll be everything for this episode of Worst Take. Hopefully that everyone's predictions are right. Hopefully that the Panthers actually win a game. Probably not. And Justin Fields comes back healthy. That'll be it for everyone. This was it for me. I'm your host Kyle Torrain here with Jack Ziskin and Cedric Lorecho, and we'll see you next time for the next episode of Worst Take.